Before I start this video, let me just start out with a few disclaimers. For one, I did not actually finish the game completely. I got stuck on a couple of boss fights, and I just rather have not play a game for another 8 to 10 hours and to unravel all the stuff. I needed to keep my sanity. Number two, I'm completely going off the cuff here. I'm not having any sort of script or anything like that. I'm just giving you my wholehearted opinion about this game and what I thought. Lastly, if you have not played the game and you don't want any spoilers or anything like that, go ahead and click off right now. Before I start getting into all the negatives, I would say, of this game, let me get into the positives of this game. This is one of the best stories to a game I have ever seen. And I've never really seen a game really portray just something completely traumatic happening to someone at an extremely young age in this way before. So if you haven't actually played the game before, I'll give you a brief rundown. So the main story is that there's this young boy who has become a complete and total recluse because something in his life has caused him to just go into this dreamlike world that he created in his own mind to help him cope with his reality. And basically, he keeps coming back into the real world because he has to face everything that had happened and everything that is done. And this is where the big spoiler comes in. The main character, Omori, accidentally killed his sister while they were getting into an argument. And it basically leads to him and his friend taking her body and using a rope to make it look like she hung herself. And he basically just goes into this sort of complete denial state in his life where he lives in just this childlike world. But the reality is that they're now in their late teens. Now one of the characters, I think, is starting to get close to his 20s maybe, but they're all in their late teens, and they're all grown up. And the story basically has a couple of endings, like a neutral ending, a bad ending, and a good ending. And it all just depends on whether or not you're able to get through these last boss fights and actually overcome your own traumatic event. And that's what I love about this game as well. It is scary. It is horrible that anyone would ever have to go through something like this, but it is ultimately our own choices that we decide whether or not this will destroy us or make us better. And that's what I really like about this game. It really does paint a perfect picture. And I'm going to kind of go into some of my own experiences for reference. So the main character, Omori, from the looks of him, the way that he's always had this dull, glass-like expression, and he's always portrayed very pale looking and just absent of color, makes me think that he may have some form of autism or something, even before he started to go and lose his mind a little bit. Before he became a recluse, he was already different. And that's very much true. That's very much true. People with autism and stuff like that, have this sort of blank, dull expression because they just don't know how to socially interact very well. And just the way that everything in that game is really shown, all the little traumatic stuff, how whenever Omori starts to experience some sort of like tragic event or anything like that, whenever some of those feelings start to come up, he gets scared. It literally says that he can't breathe. These loud noises starts to take over, like if he was actually dying. And for someone who's actually gone through stuff like this, that's exactly how it feels. And a lot of times I actually had to stop playing the game because the game was actually starting to freak me out quite a bit. Because when you have those feelings and you have that sort of in the moment, they're called panic attacks, and they feel similar to like heart attacks. They're just constant racing thoughts. It's not fun. It's not fun, but it is a real and true thing. And I think there's a lot of people out there who actually go through stuff like this, and I think that's a good thing that the developer of the game put a warning on the game before you even load it up. And that's one of the main reasons why I also had to just quit the game, because it was making me extremely uncomfortable. However, I did watch pretty much all of the time frames and stuff like that, the rest of it on YouTube, just to see what happened. And I just gotta say, this really is a very dark, but also a very beautiful story, and with a very unique art style. I can't I don't know any other series that has a similar art style to this. It's very, childlike, simplistic, but it's very also static and broken. Now, let's talk about my gripes about this game. So, for one, I hate the combat in this game. Hate it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the one who just absolutely sucks at this game. But it is probably the worst RPG combat system I've ever had to experience. And I thought Persona 5, I've played like a couple of the Persona games, and I thought those games were ass. This is on a whole nother level. It is some of the worst combat I've ever had to experience. And maybe it's just all me. Maybe I'm just the one who completely sucks. But I don't know. Maybe I was just getting completely screwed over by the games. But I was like, that last boss I was fighting, I was already getting close to like level 30 and whatnot, which is like probably more than the level that you need to beat him. And I couldn't beat him. I even went back and grinded up and got as many levels and as many healing items as I possibly could. I still couldn't beat him. So I just decided, you know what? Screw it. That I didn't want to fight that boss again. I didn't want to fight those bosses again. So yeah, that's probably one of my biggest complaints. Another thing I also just have a kind of a gripe about is just these random characters just popping up out of nowhere. I mean, the closest thing that I can think of that kind of has this sort of shtick is Undertale. But with Undertale, the characters, they may just pop out of the blue, but they still feel like, yeah, this is where they belong. This is what they are, It's some sort of fight or whatever. But with this game, a lot of the characters just feel completely random. And maybe that's supposed to be the whole thing. It is supposed to be someone's whole dream-like world or whatever, and sometimes dreams or whatever don't make sense. So again, that's just a little nitpick that I have about this game. But other than that, would I recommend this game? Maybe. For someone who just doesn't really understand all this stuff, I don't think it may or may not interest you. I think this game just depends on the person. For me, I think it's a beautifully written story for sure. I think the characters are great, the story is fantastic, the art style is fantastic. The only thing I can't stand is the battle mechanics of the game. But other than that, I really, really, really enjoy this game. And in total, I would probably give this game an 8 out of 10. However, if you are not of the faint of heart and this stuff kind of freaks you out, I wouldn't play this game because it is disturbing. It is disturbing because it has to be. It is the story that it's about. It is a very heart-wrenching story about a child. Something bad happened to him that he didn't even mean for to happen. Another one of the positives I want to talk about the game is that it was very well paced. Everything about it, how it was just telling you the story bit by bit, and you were having to unravel the mystery of what really happened. So there were two characters, Omori, the main character, and Basil, who at the beginning of the story, I was really, really concerned about them because I thought something really, really bad, a lot worse had happened to them. Luckily, it was just what happened in the story. However, I was thinking much, 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 much worse. I truly believe that at the beginning of the story that Omori and Basil had been like abused or something like that, and it was really starting to make me even more uncomfortable until later on I found out what it truly was. And if that's what the game was about, I don't think I would have been able to complete it. So I'm glad. I'm glad, but I'm also not glad at the same time what the story turned out to be. Because if it had been that way, I don't think I would have been able to even get through more than half the game. I got probably about... So I was at the fight with Humphrey, and that was when I just decided to quit. And yeah, I really enjoyed this game. It was definitely worth the amount of money that I had to buy it for. And if you're into this sort of thing, if you want to know more about it, definitely check out Omori, because it really is an interesting, well-written, well-paced game.